It's no secret that it's been over a decade now since the last mainline Elder Scrolls game, and after Fallout 76 and Starfield, it's also no secret that Bethesda Game Studios needs a win, and a big one at that. But to actually win back over some of the fans that BGS may have ostracized over the last decade, it's also true that the Elder Scrolls 6 needs to be a significant evolution upon what made previous Elder Scrolls entries like Skyrim so beloved. And while the exploration in Skyrim really helped to define a decade of open-world RPGs, it's definitely a game that feels outdated in 2025, especially compared to something like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. But while Skyrim and KCD 2 are games that are very different, some have conjectured that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 represents what the Elder Scrolls could have become if the more immersive Oblivion style was developed upon for further iterations of the Elder Scrolls franchise. But with the massive improvements that we've seen in gaming since Skyrim, there's quite a bit that the Elder Scrolls 6 can now learn from Warhorse and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 right now in 2025. Although the Elder Scrolls is a fantasy world and doesn't necessarily need to adopt the gameplay realism or janky combat of KCD 2, the world building could be greatly improved upon. For example, a more fleshed out reputation system would help to make the world of ES6 more immersive, and if NPCs responded to characters based on their reputation and what they look like, similar to how Kingdom Come does, that would definitely add an extra layer of immersion to make the world just feel so much more alive. Remember in Skyrim though, when NPCs would literally repeat the same lines over and over? The issue now is that in 2025, NPCs in other RPGs have entire routines and lives. That is, instead of just standing and selling something at a stall, an NPC may have a spouse, go to an inn to eat, and have motivations of their own. Making the world more dynamic then, like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, as opposed to the static, unchanging world of Skyrim, would open things up for new gameplay opportunities and new innovative ideas that the series hasn't seen in literal decades. Having the environment change in response to your character's actions would also be an interesting way to bring the Elder Scrolls franchise into the next generation. And while the Elder Scrolls doesn't necessarily need to have full-scale, destructible environments, seeing little changes in the world around you as the game progresses would make a huge difference. Beyond immersion, it's also been pretty apparent in recent years that the writing throughout the last few Bethesda Game Studios games hasn't been nearly as impressive as other RPG titles like The Witcher 3, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, or even something smaller like The Outer Worlds. And to be fair, I'm not sure that Bethesda and The Elder Scrolls have ever been known for that strong of writing. However, The Elder Scrolls does maintain some really interesting and powerful quest lines, such as the Dark Brotherhood questline in Oblivion, or the Vanguard storyline from Starfield, but at the same time, in comparison to its competition, the writing in Bethesda games has recently just not quite measured up with its competition, and when the old school Bethesda exploration is stripped out of the game, that mixed with mediocre writing gives us something more akin to Starfield, which in my opinion can't happen again if Bethesda is to stay relevant. So maybe now's the time to bring back choice and consequence similar to what Obsidian was able to do in Fallout New Vegas. In terms of what Bethesda has done in the past, the guilds and storylines have honestly primarily presented binary black and white options, but games like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 have changed that formula quite a lot this generation by offering more morally gray choices with more realistic consequences, like getting branded after committing crimes so many times in a certain region of the world. And I would be really interested in seeing Bethesda follow that sort of approach in a new Elder Scrolls game as well. But while Bethesda Game Studios was, at one point, a pillar of innovation in gaming, the times of Oblivion and Fallout 3, where Bethesda's graphical fidelity and immersive gameplay were unmatched, have come and gone. And throughout this newest generation of consoles, it's been smaller developers who have proven themselves more with innovative ideas, bleeding-edge graphics, and immersion, while story developers like BioWare have ostensibly fallen apart, and others like Bethesda Game Studios have relied on their previous successes to carry them into the future. But interestingly enough, both BioWare and Bethesda have been unable to replicate the successes that each of them had at their peak with games like Mass Effect 2 and The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim respectively. And I know I've talked at length in previous videos already about how some of these gaming devs may just not be the same developers that we knew and loved long ago, and maybe that's just something that we need to understand nowadays and move on from. But at the same time, if these developers want to continue to stay relevant in 2025, they need to adapt, improve, and build upon what made them so great to start with by following in the footsteps of newer developers like Warhorse and games like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Is greater realism and better writing going to solve all of Bethesda's problems? Probably not, but it would be a good start. All I know though is that another mediocre release from Bethesda Game Studios is not going to fly with the community. In fact, I'd wager to say that ES6 needs to be just as good, if not better than Skyrim at this point, especially considering the critical reception of their last two games, and that's no small feat. But again, maybe some lessons can be learned from the Kingdom Come Deliverance franchise and other modern RPGs that demonstrate what an evolution of that old school Bethesda Game Studios formula would truly look like in 2025. But anyhow, what are your thoughts on The Elder Scrolls 6 and KCD 2? Do you think that The Elder Scrolls 6 can learn some lessons from Kingdom Come Deliverance? Do you have high hopes for The Elder Scrolls 6? Or are you worried about the future of the Elder Scrolls franchise? Shout out down in the comments below and let me know what you're thinking. And if you enjoyed the video today, consider subscribing. But for now, thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next level.